Do you know that you can potentially increase your chances of getting pregnant using an at-home insemination kit? Do you know that you can use at-home insemination kits with frozen donor sperm from a sperm bank? Learn all about these home kits and what makes the Mosie Baby Kit different with founder and mom to the first Mosie baby, Mauren Brown. Welcome to the Baby or Bust Fertility Podcast, the podcast with interviews and in-depth discussions on reproductive health created to support anyone curious about infertility, miscarriage, and early pregnancy. I'm your host, Dr. Lora Shahine, a double board-certified OBGYN and reproductive endocrinologist and former fertility and IVF patient myself, helping build families for almost 20 years and dedicated to supporting and educating you on your family building journey. Maureen, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's so fun to chat with you.
Well, I've gotten a lot of feedback from people. They're sort of like, Lora, you are a reproductive endocrinologist doing IUIs in your clinic and IVF. Like, why are you interested in sharing information and learning more about at-home inseminations? Like, isn't that sort of not what you're about? And I discovered Mosie Baby. I've learned a lot about what you guys are doing, and I'm very impressed with what I've learned. And I believe in access to care. And there are a lot of my patients that I often sort of say, hey, in your particular situation, why don't you try some at-home inseminations and then, come back to me. And so I just love that your product is out there. I just want to make sure people realize that you are not sponsoring this. Like, I truly, genuinely wanted to talk to you because I'm fascinated by your story. So tell me a little bit of the origin of Mosie Baby. You guys have been out there since 2015. I want to hear.
Yeah, well, thank you. And thank you again for everything you do to help educate society. So it's so important. Too many topics are unfortunately taboo. And, when we started Mosie Baby, this was definitely taboo. So we struggled to conceive years and years ago. We conceived our daughter, who was the inspiration for Mosie Baby in 2014, in January of 2014 in a doctor's office. And, throughout our journey, we struggled for 2.5 years, had unexplained infertility. And it was kind of, just every month you're ratcheting up, like, what are we doing now? What is this? What diet can I do? What book? What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And as people who were struggling to conceive, our sex life took a dive, and it affected us in so many different areas of our relationship. And eventually people were like, hey, try the turkey baster method. Well, many bold, industrious people, I always credit, people have been doing the turkey baster method for years because they needed something. They needed a tool.
Yeah.
So we tried different syringes, different things on the internet. It was scary at the time. There was nothing really thoughtful about this. And we just couldn't believe that there wasn't a properly designed insemination syringe or kit.
Mm-hmm.
So, we sketched it up, started down that path, but it didn't exist at the time. So we ended up conceiving through IUI in a doctor's office. And that experience really informed how we approach Mosie Baby today and how we build our company. Because when you're in that process, you find yourselves involving third parties in your sex life, in your family origin story and your child's origin story. And it's not exactly what you expected. So as many people come to our website, one of the things that we've really, in our product as well, we've really worked hard to embrace the love that comes along in this journey as much as the science, because you need both in this process. And so that's where Mosie Baby came from. Eventually we had a prototype kit, and we were ready to try again. And one weekend we followed our instructions. I was ovulating and we got pregnant. Oh. So our son is the first Mosie Baby. And we launched our company shortly after that and have grown it, bootstrapped it, like on our own since for many years. And we've sold over 100,000 kits, have thousands and thousands of success stories. And now I get to talk to really great people like you, which is such a fun part of my job. Because industry has changed, industry has shifted. And so, it's really interesting to see perspectives and where it's come since we started.
So Frank is the first Mosie Baby.
Yeah.
Right. And when was he born?
Oh, okay. He was born in 2016.
Okay. I'm like,
So
wait,
yeah,
that's not a trick question.
I know. I was like, wait, how old is my child? Yeah.
Oh, no, that's really cute. And there's so much that you brought up in just that introduction that really resonated with me. Like, I am in the process of helping people build families, and I think about it as a beautiful way. Some people like the fact that when they get to the point of maybe doing inseminations in the clinic, I loved how you called it turkey baster. They actually like that, some of the like intimacy can stay at home, but baby making is in the clinic. But that's not for everyone. And I love that you still, recognize that sometimes you might need a little bit of help, but it's not, trying to substitute for what fertility doctors are doing. So before we start learning what is so unique about Mosie Baby and the kits that people can get from you, I really want to clarify what we're talking about, because in my clinic, what I do are intrauterine inseminations, IUIs. And that is a process in which ejaculated sperm or sperm that's frozen from a sperm bank, is in the lab. We can thaw it, we can wash, we can really isolate only motile swimming sperm. In my clinic, we use something called a zymote that finds like the lowest DNA fragmented sperm, so we're getting this really great specimen. And then it's just sperm, and we resuspend it in a little milliliter of pH balanced media. It's in a little tiny syringe, and that syringe is attached to a catheter. Patients come to the clinic around the time of ovulation. We place a speculum in the clinic so we can see the cervix. And then this little tiny catheter is passed through the cervix. That washed, prepped sperm is in that little syringe, and we depress the syringe, and we're placing that specimen into the uterine cavity. From there, that sperm has to meet the egg, and they have to like each other, and fertilization and implantation has to happen. Like, all the magic has to happen. But that is what we're doing in the clinic. And an intrauterine insemination is very different than an at-home intravaginal insemination. So I really want to make sure people are aware of that. You cannot take ejaculated sperm and just place it into the uterine cavity, because it's full of this stuff called prostaglandins. And the uterus would just contract down with those prostaglandins, and it would be an increased risk of infection, et cetera. So at home, you can use this great syringe to just place it near the cervix, kind of in the vagina. But it is not the same thing that we are doing in the clinic. I just want to be so clear about how it's different.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So I think that's great. And what I'm curious about is, some people have said, thanks for telling me about Mosie Baby, but I can just grab a syringe at the drugstore down the street or a turkey baster from the cooking store. So tell me what makes Mosie Baby different and your intravaginal, home kit different.
Yeah. So Mosie Baby is designed for this process and your body. We as well tried, appropriating other devices from around the house and even ordering bigger syringes, because at the time I thought, oh, bigger is better, But in the end, after doing research and understanding the depth of the vagina and how deep the cervix typically is, we came up with Mosie Baby, which is an optimal length. So it's not incredibly long. And sometimes people are shocked by that. And it's because we're not fully educated on our own anatomy. So Mosie Baby is rounded for comfort. It's super easy to insert. It's designed for comfort and your safety. And so this is where we have handles that are wider than normal syringe. We tell you, to insert up to the handles, because that's an optimal length for you to insert. Our syringe is also designed with a slit opening. It's a patented unique slit opening, and this actually mimics Mother Nature. So the penile opening is not circular, it's a slit. Mother Nature is incredibly brilliant. It creates a laminar flow, which is a gentler flow for that passage than what's called a turbulent flow in a circular opening. So our syringe actually has a wider, longer spray than a standard syringe, because the goal here is to transfer in a gentle process, right? The semen, which is carrying the sperm, to spray and get it to the cervix. And to have it in the vaginal environment is actually beneficial. And so that is one thing where people are not fully aware too, that, there is a benefit. This is designed to, help you capitalize on that. Nature's designed, which cervical mucus is there to play a part. Cervical mucus is incredible. I mean, semen is incredible too. When you start to understand these fluids that we create, it's really fascinating. But ultimately, you have a body, which for the most part, your body is going to do this dance that has been done for millennia.
So I do really appreciate how it's designed. And if you really do hold a Mosie Baby syringe up to what you get in the drugstore, it is drastically different and much more comfortable. And I love that a lot of the things that you guys thought about. And one thing that's really awesome is, since I've heard about Mosie Baby, you guys got FDA clearance. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you explain what an FDA cleared device means?
Yes. So FDA cleared is different than FDA approved and FDA registered. So the FDA ranks devices by risk. And a lot of devices are FDA cleared. That means they're a class 2 device. So class 2 devices are things like tampons, condoms, and insemination syringes. So your insemination syringe should be FDA cleared.
Mm-hmm.
And the FDA clearance shows that you have done rigorous testing. You have done a usability study to show that people can understand your instructions. You've done materials testing. You've done stability testing. You've done a number of tests to ensure that users are going to properly use your product in a safe way where they are able to understand what it is used for as well. So you'll have an indications for use when you're FDA cleared, which clarifies how you should use that product and for what it's used. And those are important elements. And, this is really a proud moment for us because it is a journey to go through this process. And medical devices that meet this requirement are proven to have a higher quality. So this is something that you want to consider and take into consideration when looking at devices. And also, FDA cleared is that status for medical devices. FDA approved, just to quickly educate people, is typically reserved for life-saving and life-giving devices. That might be like implantable devices. So you won't usually see that for medical devices very often in the consumer market. So just be aware, if somebody's saying FDA approved, it's probably likely that it's not the right terminology for that device. But we get, sometimes people call it FDA approved, FDA cleared, and we're happy to clear it up. But just so the most people listening can understand, FDA cleared is a process that we've gone through, and FDA approved is where you're using like an implantable device.
Yeah. And something else that I read was FDA cleared means that if you use it as directed, you have such a low chance of having an infection. Like you're thinking about how it's sealed, the place where the product is actually made. Like I'm thinking, if I want to say, hey, try some home inseminations for my patients, I want to make sure that they're using a product that is made in a very safe way. And so getting that reassurance as a provider was really helpful for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do an antimicrobial step in our process as well. It's something that's important to us in our manufacturing process. And that is something to look into as well, because you are working with an intimate environment. While it's, your vagina is pretty hardy in many ways, you still want to be thoughtful about what you're using on your body.
Does FDA cleared have anything to do with making sure that the product that you're using is safe for sperm? I mean, you think about certain toxins for sperm and egg quality, and you're kind of using this device to help get sperm where it's going. My patients will definitely ask me about that.
Yes. So FDA clearance, as was required for us and likely for others, does require some sperm survival testing. And so there is an assay, and that is human sperm survival assay. And that is done to show that you have live motile sperm after, a period of time, and it's a certain percentage. And so that is on our packaging as well. This is information that most people, I'm so glad you asked, because most people don't understand that. So it's something that's important to look for when you're doing home insemination, for sure.
We are going to get back to talking to Maureen in just a second, but I wanted to take a moment to remind you just how important it is to review the show. It really helps people find the show and help more people struggling with reproductive issues. I have one here from back in January I wanted to share with you. I love your style and your conversational approach. Any topic I'm curious about, I know you'll have insight about, and I'm thankful for all the education you provide. You are truly amazing. Well, that is absolutely kind and wonderful. Thank you, Sari, for this wonderful review. You can review the podcast anywhere you listen to your podcasts. It could be on Spotify, it could be on Apple Podcasts, YouTube. And I just really appreciate your taking the time to say something so kind. Now let's get back to the show. One of the things that you touched on is how important it is to educate people on not only how to use this, which I love a lot of the education material that you guys have on YouTube as far as timing and, there's 2 tries in each kit, et cetera. But also you're very careful about who you recommend trying and sort of how many times you try, because this is really not for everyone, but it could be a first step, like as someone's waiting to see a fertility doctor, or especially for my patients. There are so many patients that have difficulty completing intercourse, and it's something really important to talk about. You are so open about talking about intimacy. It is real when trying to have a baby becomes a job after you've been trying for 6 months, a year, whatever. It strains on the relationship. But also, there are people out there that have erectile dysfunction. There's people out there that have serious pain with intercourse. And so being able to try at home, with the intimacy of your home, but getting sperm where it needs to go around the time of ovulation without an act that can sometimes quite often be painful for people, can keep people out of my office, like maybe they can have a baby without having to wait, 6 months to see me. So I just want to talk about access to care and sort of who you imagine could be using this kit, because that's what I thought of at first when I learned about Mosie Baby.
Love that question. As someone who struggled to conceive, I'm very cognizant of making sure that the right people are using our kit and they're using it in the right way. So we do not recommend using it for more than 3 to 6 cycles, typically 3 cycles. But there are some people who, this is it for them. And 6 cycles is, the maximum that we recommend. For people who are in a place where they have a partner and maybe their sex life has taken a dip, we've heard the phrase, keep sex sexy, leave conception to Mosie. Like that. I don't remember where that came from. Like social somewhere had said it one time, and we're like, oh, that makes sense, because for some people, he does his thing, leaves it on the nightstand, and she does her thing, and that is great. Other people want to be more intimate, they want to be more playful, but the beauty is, orgasm is not required to make a baby. This is like a pressure reliever. I should say orgasms for women are not required to make a baby. But the pressure for that moment, that interval that you have that is limited, if you're not able to make it work in that time frame because of an emotional moment or fight or whatever it may be, for many people, they're able to separate that.
Well, it's just such a pressure cooker. You're like, hey, the ovulation predictor kit is positive. This is the time, hurry up and get home after your long day and make the magic happen. And it's just like, especially when it's like cycle after cycle after cycle, it just really can be just really challenging. And it's so good that we're talking about it, because so many people experience it and never talk about it.
Totally. And there are a lot of couples who maybe the male partner is able to complete to orgasm, but then, this is actually a very common thing. And I want to bring it up because I want people to understand they're not alone. That even, their sex life it is their sex life and it works for them. But some men have trouble climaxing with a partner. And
absolutely,
this is like, I think, so unspoken. This is one of the stories. We have very few stories that are shared publicly on our website, but we receive them and they say, please keep this anonymous. I don't want it shared, but I'm bringing this up because I want to be a voice for the voiceless. You're not alone. So this is a kit that has helped a lot of people in that situation. And it's helped alleviate some of that pressure too, for them they have a relationship. It works for them.
Yep.
But, you might struggle to complete with her. So, and this is more common than I even knew before we started.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I'm a fertility doctor, and for the first few years of my practice, I would just say, how long have you guys been trying? And, people would say, oh, over a year. Now I say, what does trying mean to you?
Great question.
Because if you really don't ask, a lot of people are not having penetrative sex. You know, they're trying to climax near each other, or sometimes people quite honestly truly don't know how to physically make a baby or are unable to climax within their partner. Yeah, this is reality. And this is exactly where Mosie Baby can come in. Something that you said was trying no more than 3 to 6 times. I would just like to clarify, this isn't for everyone. I would love for everybody to get like basic testing done before they do at-home inseminations. Might not be able to. Access to care is real, whether it's financial or location. But if you could just make sure that there's sperm, right? You know, make sure in general that anatomy is okay and that someone is ovulating, like having regular cycles, then yes, trying 3 to 6 times. I just want to make sure there's nothing wrong with trying more than 6 times as long as you're not missing something. I don't want people out there trying with Mosie Baby, just like I don't want them trying, you know, without any assistance for more than a year and then not realize that their fallopian tubes are blocked.
Exactly.
If your fallopian tubes are blocked, you might have no symptoms, but the egg and sperm cannot bind each other, even if you use a Mosie Baby or an at-home insemination kit. So there's nothing wrong with using more than 6 Mosie Babies. It just, I don't want it to delay a consult with a fertility doctor or delay getting the basic fertility checkups done. I just wanted to offer that because you're right. Some people will, you know, will say they'll never do intrauterine inseminations. They'll never do IVF. Totally fine. This is something that they can do in the intimacy of their home. But I just don't want people to waste time missing something that an at-home insemination kit will not help with.
Absolutely. And I will add, our number one question asked is, will this work if my tubes are tied?
Seriously? Maureen.
Yes.
Thank you for talking about this because I just think I'm too into fertility. I've been doing it for 20 years and I'm like, of course it won't work. But if people are still asking you this, okay, can you clarify? Because there's someone else out there is going to want to know what you meant.
Yeah. And it breaks my heart too, because you just realize how little we are educated about our bodies. So no home insemination is going to work for you if you have had your tubes cut, tied, blocked, removed, or if you know that your tubes are blocked as well. No home insemination is going to work for you. You absolutely want to work with your doctor. You want to find support along the way. And, you know, there are potential paths for you, but it is going to be a different story and a different journey. So happy to clarify that because that is a question that we get asked. And there's a lot of education. We have not even done everything that we want to do on education. And there's so much more that has to be done to help regular people understand, you know, that are not within the industry, right?
But then let me clarify, because I just really want everyone who's listening might still say, but why? So just the basics. When the egg ovulates, it comes literally out of the ovary, like it pops out to the surface of the ovary. It is picked up by the fallopian tube and it travels down the fallopian tube. The sperm comes up into the uterine cavity and it meets the egg in the fallopian tube. This is where fertilization happens. An embryo develops for the first 5-6 days. Then it travels down into the uterine cavity to implant and be a baby. So if your tubes are blocked, if they've been tied, if they have been removed, if they're blocked because you do a test called a hysterosalpingogram or HSG, then the egg and sperm cannot meet. And a at-home insemination and intrauterine insemination, they're just putting sperm either close to or within the uterus, and that has nothing to do. The egg and sperm cannot find each other. And that reminds me, a common question is, oh, I'm having periods. I'm having menstrual flow. Therefore, my tubes must be open. That's not true either.
Yep.
The uterine lining builds up and it sheds outside the body, whether you have open or closed fallopian tubes or not. The opening of the fallopian tubes has nothing to do with whether you're having periods. So hopefully, if that is confusing, because I know that people are listening, maybe open up literally a picture of uterine anatomy, get it on Google, even a little cartoon of a uterus. And then as I'm describing that, like watch, what's happening, kind of the egg coming from the ovary into the fallopian tube. That's why IVF was invented, is for blocked fallopian tubes. IVF is basically what is typically happening in the fallopian tube, egg and sperm meeting and the embryo developing for the first 5 or 6 days. And then that's happening in the lab. And then when the embryo is ready, you put it back into the uterus, but you go through a different door. I tell my patients, so you're going up through the cervix. So you don't even need fallopian tubes to get pregnant with IVF.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
So I thank you so much. Like, that's part of what you guys are doing. Like, I appreciate your education on YouTube. I appreciate your education on your website. And I do think you guys do a really responsible job of directing people to evaluation and fertility clinics, and not sort of, you can tell that you're not trying to sell more products. You're truly trying to help people. And like, you're giving guidance on how many times to try. And it just really shows that you guys care. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's so much more work to do, and there's a lot more research to do, and a lot more fun stuff.
I know.
So I think we're just getting started with home insemination.
Yeah.
I think over the next decade, we're going to see some more evolution, and I'm looking forward to seeing how many more people can benefit.
Yeah.
I think for overall, there's been a lot of great research and improvements in IVF. And I think that there's going to be some similar moments at home as well. And, I really appreciate you in the work that you do and understanding home insemination, because I think sometimes doctors are just like unsure, and REIs are unsure. And it's, to me, more an additive, an additional option than it is to take away.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure people are getting the care that they need in the right places that they need to go, and not wasting any time.
Yeah.
Because time is always of the moment, and for timing everything, and every month that goes by, or if it's not the right time for you to be doing this with us, you need to be doing it with a medical professional who can help guide you to get you to where you need to go. So that's where we want to make sure people understand, when to use this, how to use it, what do you need? You need to be ovulating and understand ovulation and confirm that. And hopefully you've confirmed that you have a good semen sample, and your understanding of any other tests that you can get done as well. We do have resources about that as well.
So another group of patients that might benefit from using Mosie Baby is when they're conceiving with frozen donor sperm, like from a sperm bank. And I found Mosie Baby's video, like teaching how you can get a sperm bank shipped to, sperm bank tank shipped to your house and use that way.
Yes, you can definitely use frozen donor sperm with Mosie Baby. We have some videos on our YouTube and our TikTok. You can check it out. And we're here to support you. So if you have questions about it, please do reach out.
Yeah, I just honestly hadn't thought about that use for Mosie Baby. And I just think it opens the door to a whole group of people, whether it's single moms or same-sex couples that are using frozen sperm anyway. I don't think people should keep trying multiple times, but 2 or 3 times at home. And if it's not successful, then come in and kind of get testing and making sure you're not missing anything. But I just think that that's another use for this that is an option for people. And access to care is real, cost to seeing a fertility doctor, time to get an appointment, and then location. Like, there's a lot of people that don't live near a fertility clinic that can do intrauterine inseminations very easily. So having this kit shipped to your house, it just increases access to care. And that's one of the things that I love about it. And I really appreciate your coming on the show today. So how can we find Mosie Baby? How can we learn more from you and your team?
Yeah, so you can check us out online, of course, at mosiebaby.com. That's MOSIE baby.com. You can also follow along on TikTok at Mosie Baby, and on YouTube and Instagram. And also you can reach out to me, Maureen, at mosiebaby.com. Love hearing from people, and I do get those emails. So feel free to reach out if you have questions.
Thank you so much, Maureen. I really appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate what you're doing and helping people understand their bodies and this process. So thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Mosie Baby founder Mauren Brown. I really enjoyed learning about how at-home insemination kits work, how they can be an option to help people with limited access to fertility care. It's not a long-term solution. It's not something that's perfect for every situation, but it really can be a unique and very helpful tool in certain situations. You can find more information about Mosie Baby and at-home insemination kits in general in the show notes below. Thank you for being here for this discussion. Find this episode and all others at my website, drlorashahine.com. Find me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. I just love educating. Please send us an email, hello@drlorashahine.com, to let us know ideas you'd like us to cover, people you'd like us to interview. Thank you to our friends at Seattle Sperm Bank and Bray's Run Production for sponsoring the show. Thank you to my producer, Shannon Perry, and her team at Audiotocracy. This is your host, Dr. Lora Shahine. See you next week. And until then, wishing you love, luck, and pineapples.